The shuttle landed on the smooth landing platform of Urindor Palace just as the sun was rising over the alien city. Dr. Kieran Hayes stepped out, the light glinting off the reflective surfaces of his human-issued medical uniform. His boots made a soft sound against the polished metal of the platform. He had been called here in a hurry, with a message that sounded urgent, though the details were sparse. All he knew was that a member of the royal family had been injured and that human medical expertise was requested. Kieran adjusted his satchel over his shoulder, feeling the weight of the supplies inside. It was unusual for humans to be summoned to an alien royal palace for such a task. He had treated wounded soldiers and disaster victims before, but this felt different. There was a certain tension in the air, something he could sense as he approached the palace gates. They were enormous, carved from a shimmering stone that seemed to shift color in the sunlight. Palace guards, tall and clad in elegant armor, nodded silently as he passed. Inside the palace, the corridors were vast, filled with intricate patterns that seemed alive, moving slightly when observed from the corner of the eye. Kieran had studied alien architecture before, but nothing had prepared him for the scale and artistry of this place. Every step echoed softly, and the scent of unfamiliar flowers and metallic polish mixed in the air. He was led quickly to the infirmary, a room filled with advanced medical equipment that hummed quietly, lights blinking in rhythm with some unknown mechanism. Princess Althea lay on the bed, her arm bandaged and her face pale. She had been attacked during a sudden raid by alien raiders who had slipped through the palace defenses. Kieran knelt beside her, examining the wound carefully. His human training allowed him to quickly assess the severity, and he began his work with calm efficiency. The queen entered silently, her presence commanding and composed. She observed every move he made, her dark eyes never leaving him. Kieran noticed the intensity of her gaze but did not allow it to distract him. He had learned long ago that focus was essential in critical moments. With gentle hands, he cleaned the princess's wound, applied antiseptic, and wrapped it securely. He spoke softly to her, reassuring her with words she could understand, even though their languages were different. The universal tone of care needed no translation. Hours passed as Kieran worked. He adjusted bandages, monitored her vital signs, and ensured that the princess was stable. Outside, the palace buzzed with activity. Repairs to the walls and defenses had begun immediately after the raiders' retreat. Human engineers and medics worked alongside the Urindorian staff, their efficiency and cooperation evident. The humans did not boast of their skills, their actions spoke for themselves, and those around them could not help but notice the precision and discipline they displayed. The princess stirred slightly, opening her eyes. Kieran smiled gently. "You are safe now. The wound is healing well," he said. Her lips curved in a faint smile, an expression of relief and trust. The queen remained still, standing near the doorway, watching without any sign of emotion. Kieran sensed a quiet test in her presence, a challenge to see how he would perform under observation. He continued his work with the same calm demeanor, confident that his focus and care were enough. During the next few hours, Kieran taught a small group of palace medics some human medical techniques. He demonstrated how to stabilize injuries quickly, how to prevent infections, and how to monitor the patient's condition efficiently. The medics watched attentively, impressed by his knowledge and patience. The queen moved closer, observing not only the medical procedures but also the way he interacted with the staff. Kieran treated everyone with respect and professionalism, never showing arrogance or impatience. By evening, the princess's condition had improved noticeably. Her color returned, and her breathing became steady. Kieran administered a final check and adjusted the bandages once more. "You will need rest tonight," he advised. "But by tomorrow, you will be able to move more freely." Princess Althea nodded slightly, her eyes reflecting gratitude. The queen finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "You have done well, human," she said. There was no warmth, no praise in her tone, only acknowledgement. Kieran nodded, understanding the weight of her words. In this palace, actions spoke louder than compliments, and he had earned respect without needing it to be stated. Outside the infirmary, a group of palace advisors whispered among themselves. They discussed the humans' unexpected skills and the quiet confidence Kieran displayed. Some doubted that he could meet the high expectations of the royal family, but others noted that his performance had already surpassed what many expected. The queen's judgment, however, remained unspoken, her face still composed, revealing nothing. As night fell over the palace, the stars of Urindor's sky shone brightly. Kieran took a moment to look outside the infirmary window. He felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. Humans were far from home, in a world with customs and dangers he had never encountered. Yet, in these first hours, he had proven that their skills, ethics, and calm under pressure could make a difference, even among alien royalty. The next morning, Kieran continued his rounds. He checked the princess again, ensuring that the wound remained clean and that she had no signs of infection. Princess Althea spoke more freely now, asking questions about Earth and human medicine. Kieran answered patiently, explaining the methods he used and why certain steps were important. She listened with fascination, clearly intrigued by this human whose knowledge and calm had saved her. Throughout this time, the queen remained nearby. She did not speak often, but Kieran could feel her presence, steady and evaluating. It was clear that she was testing him, perhaps to see if he was more than just a skilled medic. Kieran felt no discomfort, only a focus on his duty. He had always believed that competence and care were the best ways to earn trust, and here in this alien palace, that belief held true. By midday, news came that the palace had secured its defenses and that the raiders were unlikely to return. Kieran helped the princess sit up, adjusting pillows for her comfort. She smiled again, her trust in him growing. The queen approached, and for the first time, Kieran met her gaze directly. There was a measure of approval there, subtle but unmistakable. He nodded respectfully, acknowledging her authority without hesitation. The palace staff began preparing for the day's events, yet all eyes returned to Kieran and the princess. Humans had arrived as strangers, but through calm action, knowledge, and empathy, they had earned a place of respect. Kieran felt a quiet pride not for himself, but for the species he represented. Humanity had once again proven that courage and intelligence could shine, even far from home. As he finished his duties for the day, Kieran took a deep breath. The work was far from over, but he had set a foundation. Trust had been earned, respect had been noticed, and the future, though uncertain, looked promising. He knew the queen's watchful eyes would not waver, but he was ready. Whatever challenges awaited, he was determined to meet them with the same calm focus that had guided him since he first stepped onto the platform of Erindor Palace. The sun set over the palace again, casting long shadows across the gleaming walls. Kieran prepared for the night, checking his supplies and reviewing his notes. Princess Althea rested peacefully, and the queen's presence remained, a silent but powerful acknowledgement of the human's abilities. Outside, the city hummed with life, and for the first time, Kieran felt a sense of connection. Humans had arrived as outsiders, yet they were already leaving a mark on this distant world. And so, the first day ended quietly, yet meaningfully. Kieran knew that the journey ahead would be filled with tests, challenges, and surprises. But he also knew that through skill, compassion, and unwavering focus, humanity could make a difference anywhere, even in a palace on a world far beyond the stars. The next morning, Kieran awoke to the soft hum of the palace. Sunlight filtered through the wide windows of his quarters, painting the floor in a golden glow. He stretched, feeling the slight soreness from yesterday's long hours, but there was no time to rest. Today, he was to continue caring for Princess Althea and also instruct the palace medics on human medical techniques. He walked through the corridors, noticing the palace beginning to stir. Servants moved swiftly, carrying trays of food and water. Palace guards patrolled silently, their steps in perfect rhythm. The walls, still showing faint signs of damage from the recent raid, gleamed in the morning light. Kieran's human eyes were drawn to the detail, the patterns and artistry woven into every surface, the delicate carvings that seemed to tell stories of Erindor's long history. Yet he kept his focus. Beauty was not enough, people needed care. He entered the infirmary where Princess Althea was already awake, sitting on the edge of her bed. Her eyes brightened when she saw him, and she managed a small smile. "Good morning, Dr. Hayes," she said, her voice soft but confident. "I feel stronger today. Today, we will make sure everything continues to heal properly." He approached her carefully, checking the bandages and the slight bruising along her arm and shoulder. He gently pressed on the wound site, observing her reaction. She flinched slightly but nodded, trusting his assessment. The queen was already present, standing near the doorway as always. Her dark eyes were steady on him, evaluating. Kieran did not flinch. He had worked with many authorities who observed him critically, but this gaze was different. It carried not judgment, but a quiet test. He focused on his task, speaking softly to the princess, explaining each step of the treatment as he did it. "Today I will also show your medics how to check for internal injuries after trauma," he said. He gestured toward the group of Erindorian medics gathered in the infirmary. Their uniforms were different, their tools unfamiliar, but they watched him attentively. Kieran knew that knowledge, when shared respectfully, could build trust faster than words alone. He began demonstrating techniques, showing how to identify signs of infection, how to measure pulse and breathing accurately, and how to bandage wounds in ways that prevented further injury. The medics mimicked his movements carefully, occasionally glancing at the Queen, who remained silent but observant. She occasionally nodded subtly, acknowledging Kieran's competence. Princess Althea, sitting nearby, watched with curiosity. "You make it look so easy," she said. "On Earth, do all healers work this way?" Kieran encouraged her, providing support when necessary. He adjusted pillows, helped her sit upright, and offered small exercises to restore mobility. She moved cautiously but steadily improved. Every time she took a step or lifted her arm, Kieran praised her, quietly reinforcing her confidence. Outside the infirmary, the palace buzzed with activity. Repair crews worked on the damaged walls, using a mixture of Urindorian technology and human engineering techniques. Humans had been involved not only in healing the princess, but in helping restore the palace's defenses. The collaboration was unusual but effective. Alien engineers observed human methods, sometimes skeptical, sometimes amazed. They had not expected outsiders to integrate so smoothly, and yet humans worked without arrogance, letting their skills speak for themselves. The Queen moved closer, silently observing the interactions between Kieran and the princess and between Kieran and the palace staff. There was no judgment, only careful measurement of character. Kieran noticed her presence but did not let it distract him. He had learned long ago that calm focus and professionalism were the best response to scrutiny. By midday, the princess was able to stand on her own and walk a short distance without support. Kieran adjusted her clothing to allow movement and explained exercises that could strengthen her arm further. She listened intently, occasionally glancing at the Queen for approval. The Queen remained quiet, yet her eyes lingered on Kieran's every action. "You are teaching them well," the Queen finally said, her voice calm but firm. "They learn quickly from you. Skills are not enough. Character matters as much as ability." Kieran accompanied her, staying close but giving her space to enjoy the open air. The gardens were vast, filled with plants that seemed to glow faintly in the sunlight. Birds with shimmering feathers flitted between branches. The princess walked carefully, her hand occasionally brushing against the flowers, eyes wide with curiosity. "You must miss Earth," she said suddenly, glancing at Kieran. He smiled faintly. "Sometimes, but my work here is important. Healing is the same everywhere. People need help and I can provide it. I learned this long ago." Each action, though routine to him, impressed those around him. The palace staff whispered among themselves, noticing how humans worked with quiet confidence and respect. They noticed that Kieran never complained, never demanded attention, and never acted superior. Instead, he let competence and dedication define him. Later, a minor incident occurred when a tray of medical supplies was accidentally knocked over by a young Urindorian apprentice. The equipment clattered loudly, and the apprentice froze, eyes wide with fear. Kieran calmly knelt, picking up the supplies. "It is all right," he said softly. "Mistakes happen. What matters is how we respond. Let's organize this together." He adjusted pillows, ensured that her medications and bandages were correctly set, and checked the room's temperature and lighting for comfort. Princess Althea thanked him quietly, her trust in him growing with each passing hour. Outside, humans and palace staff continued to work together, reinforcing walls, repairing minor damage, and organizing medical supplies. The efficiency of human methods, combined with the palace's own technology, impressed the Queen and the advisors alike. Humans, it seemed, were capable of extraordinary focus, adaptability, and innovation. By nightfall, the princess was resting peacefully. Kieran reviewed his notes, preparing for the next day's work. The Queen remained in the room for a few moments, silently observing before departing. Her approval was subtle but unmistakable, a quiet acknowledgement of the human's skill, composure, and character. Kieran took a deep breath and looked out the window at the stars. Urindor's sky was different from Earth, yet familiar in its vastness and beauty. He felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. Today had been challenging, but humans had once again shown that they could adapt, excel, and earn trust even in the most unfamiliar places. He knew that the days ahead would bring more tests. The Queen's watchful gaze would continue, and the expectations of the palace would remain high. Yet Kieran felt ready. With skill, focus, and care, humanity could make a difference anywhere, even on a distant alien world within the walls of a palace far from home. And as he settled for the night, Kieran felt a quiet optimism. The princess was healing, the palace was recovering, and the human presence was proving valuable. In a world filled with unfamiliar customs and cautious observers, he had shown that courage, intelligence, and compassion were qualities that transcended species. Tomorrow would be another day of tests, challenges, and discoveries. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection, knowing that human ingenuity and empathy had already left their mark on Erendor. The following morning, the palace was unusually quiet. The corridors, normally filled with the soft shuffle of servants and the hum of palace machinery, seemed almost empty. Kieran walked carefully toward the infirmary, satchel in hand. He had spent the previous day helping Princess Althea regain strength and training the palace medics in human methods, and now he faced the next phase of his responsibilities. Today, the Queen had arranged for him to be observed in ways he could not predict. When he entered the infirmary, Princess Althea was already awake, sitting by the window. Her eyes lit up as she saw him. "Good morning, Doctor." "Hayes," she said, "I feel stronger today. I can walk farther than yesterday." Kieran noticed that her eyes were sharper than usual, studying his every move. She carried no weapon, no visible authority besides the sheer force of her presence. It was clear that today she intended to test him further, not his medical skills, but his character, his ability to lead and adapt. Kieran nodded respectfully. "Good morning, Your Majesty. I will continue to care for the princess as best I can." He guided her through the exercises he had designed, carefully monitoring her movements and offering advice on posture and balance. The palace medics observed silently, taking notes and mimicking his techniques. Their eyes occasionally flicked to the Queen, who remained in the room, assessing both Kieran and her daughter. After an hour, the princess stopped to rest. Kieran adjusted her clothing and checked the healing wounds. "Your arm is stronger than yesterday," he said. "The healing process is progressing well." It is not enough to have skill. Character is tested when challenges are unexpected. You must demonstrate wisdom, courage, and compassion in every action. He understood that the Queen's observation would determine how humans were perceived in her court. Later that morning, a minor emergency occurred. One of the palace medics accidentally spilled a container of experimental healing compounds onto the floor. The room filled with a pungent odor, and several assistants froze, unsure how to proceed. Kieran acted immediately. "Everyone step back carefully," he said. His voice was calm but firm. He quickly assessed the situation, identifying the spilled substances and determining whether there was any danger to the princess or the staff. He instructed 2 medics to secure the area while he cleaned the spill with practiced efficiency. The Queen watched silently, her gaze steady. She did not intervene, yet her eyes followed Kieran's every action. Within minutes, the emergency was under control. The medics and assistants, previously tense, now relaxed. Kieran calmly explained the steps he had taken, ensuring that everyone understood the proper handling procedures for the future. Princess Althea watched him closely. "You handled that so calmly," she said. "I don't think anyone here would have known what to do without you." Kieran followed the Queen through silent corridors, each step echoing softly. The Queen led him to a chamber filled with views of the palace grounds. From here, Kieran could see the repairs continuing, the medics practicing, and the palace staff moving with precision. "You have proven skill and composure," the Queen said, her voice low and controlled. "But the test is not over. True value is shown when one's character guides decisions that affect others. Tomorrow, there will be a scenario designed to challenge you beyond medicine. You must demonstrate wisdom and courage. Others will watch, and your actions will influence how humans are seen here. Fail, and you may undo all progress." Returning to the infirmary, Kieran found Princess Althea eager to learn more. She asked questions about human healing methods, about the ways humans trained for emergencies, and about the principles that guided his work. Kieran explained patiently, drawing from his knowledge and experiences. He emphasized the importance of calmness, planning, and ethical decision-making. "You humans are remarkable," the princess said softly. "You adapt quickly and think clearly under pressure. I have never seen anyone work with such precision and care." Where there had been skepticism before, there was now curiosity and respect. Where there had been hesitation, there was now engagement. Humans were not only providing skills, they were setting an example of discipline, ethics, and calm efficiency. As the sun began to set, the Queen returned to observe the final exercise of the day. Kieran demonstrated a simulated emergency scenario for the medics, showing how to handle multiple patients and assess priorities under stress. The exercise was complex, involving physical strain, decision-making, and resource management. Kieran's approach was methodical, clear, and calm. The medics responded well, following his guidance precisely. The Queen's eyes followed every movement. She did not speak, yet Kieran could sense her evaluation in each measured glance. When the exercise concluded, the medics expressed their gratitude, and even the young apprentices who had been hesitant earlier appeared more confident. The Queen finally broke the silence. "You have shown skill, composure, and the ability to guide others," she said. "But true tests lie not only in procedure, but in judgment, courage, and ethical choice. Tomorrow, you will face a scenario designed to examine these qualities. How you respond will reflect on all humans here. Whatever challenges come, I know you will face them with courage." The stars of Urindor glimmered through the windows, vast and distant. He reflected on the day, the progress of the princess, the growth of the palace medics, and the silent evaluation of the Queen. Humans had already made an impression, but the greatest tests lay ahead. He reviewed his notes, anticipating the scenario the Queen had mentioned. He considered possible emergencies, social dilemmas, and moral challenges. He knew that the Queen's scenario would test not only his skills, but his judgment, ethics, and ability to act under pressure. He prepared himself mentally, focusing on calmness, clarity, and integrity. The night was quiet, but Kieran's mind was alert. He understood the stakes. Humans were outsiders, and their actions could shape the perception of an entire species. Every choice, every word, every movement mattered. Yet he felt ready. He had trained for challenges, and he believed that calm reasoning, ethical action, and dedication could overcome even the most difficult tests. As he lay down to rest, he thought of the princess, now sleeping peacefully, and of the Queen, observing silently from afar. He knew that tomorrow would bring challenges unlike any he had faced before, but he was determined. Humans had shown courage, intelligence, and resilience before, and they would continue to do so here, on this distant world, within these silent and watchful palace walls. And so, as the moon rose over the palace, Kieran prepared himself not only to heal wounds, but to demonstrate the full measure of human strength. Wisdom, courage, and character, qualities that no raid, no emergency, and no alien scrutiny could diminish. The day ahead promised trials, but Kieran faced them with quiet confidence, ready to prove that humanity's value went far beyond skill, reaching into the realms of honor, ethics, and the heart. The morning light filled the palace as Kieran walked through the corridors toward the infirmary. Today, the atmosphere felt different. There was a quiet tension in the air, a sense that something important was about to happen. Even the palace staff seemed more alert, moving with purpose but speaking less. Kieran adjusted his satchel and prepared himself, knowing that the Queen had promised a scenario to test him beyond his medical skills. Princess Althea was already awake, sitting by the window and observing the palace gardens. Her arm had healed well and her movements were confident. She looked up and smiled when she saw Kieran. "Good morning," she said softly. "I feel ready today. What will we do?" "I am not sure what exactly, but I will handle it as best I can." After checking the princess's progress, Kieran guided her through walking exercises in the gardens. The air was crisp and fragrant, the plants vibrant with colors unfamiliar to human eyes. Birds and small creatures moved among the branches, and the sounds of flowing water from a distant fountain filled the space. The princess moved steadily, her confidence growing. "You humans have a calm way about you," she said. "Even when things are difficult, you do not panic. I admire that." Kieran noticed their eyes, aware that his actions were being observed not only by the Queen but by many others who were assessing the humans' abilities. He focused entirely on the princess, offering support and encouragement. As the morning progressed, an unexpected message arrived. One of the palace advisors rushed into the gardens, bowing deeply. "Your Majesty," he said to the Queen, "there is an urgent diplomatic matter that requires attention. Representatives from a neighboring planet have arrived, requesting a private audience. They specifically asked to meet the human medic." "It is time to see how you handle diplomacy. Follow me." The lead representative, a tall figure with shimmering skin and elongated limbs, stepped forward. "Human medic," the voice resonated in a musical tone. "We have heard of your actions during the recent attack. Your skills and calmness are known even among neighboring worlds. We wish to understand how you approach challenges and maintain such composure. I am honored by your words. My approach is simple. Assess the situation, act with care, and ensure the well-being of those affected. Panic and haste only create more danger. How do you decide what is right when no guide exists? Kieran felt the weight of her observation, yet he remained composed. The aliens, impressed by his calm and ethical approach, nodded thoughtfully. After the diplomatic discussion, the Queen led Kieran back to the infirmary. Princess Althea greeted him eagerly, her eyes bright with curiosity. "How did it go?" she asked. Kieran smiled faintly. The representatives were interested in how humans handle challenges. I explained our approach, emphasizing care, calmness, and integrity. They seemed satisfied. She was stronger now, able to move with confidence and grace. Kieran observed her closely, offering adjustments and encouragement. The palace medics followed his lead, learning not only techniques but also patience, observation, and the importance of careful guidance. The Queen entered again, this time carrying a sealed message. She handed it to Kieran without a word. The message contained instructions for a coordinated simulation, a mock emergency designed to test the skills, judgment, and leadership of the human medic. Kieran read the details carefully, understanding that this was the ultimate test the Queen had promised. He prepared immediately, organizing the medics, assigning roles, and explaining the scenario clearly. The simulation involved multiple patients with varying injuries, a limited supply of medical equipment, and unexpected complications designed to mimic real emergencies. Kieran guided the team calmly, ensuring everyone understood their roles and how to respond under pressure. The simulation began, and Kieran moved with quiet authority. He treated each patient carefully, delegating tasks efficiently, and making swift decisions when unexpected complications arose. At one point, an artificial chemical spill occurred, threatening the health of one of the patients. Kieran remained calm, instructing the medics on how to contain the spill and prevent further harm. Princess Althea observed from a safe distance, impressed by Kieran's leadership and composure. The palace staff, including advisors and apprentices, watched intently. Even the Queen remained nearby, her gaze unwavering as she measured every action. Hours passed as the simulation continued. Kieran faced moral choices as well, prioritizing patience, deciding how to allocate limited resources, and maintaining the safety of the team. Each decision was made with care, transparency, and ethical consideration. The palace staff began to murmur among themselves, recognizing the exceptional qualities humans could bring to complex situations. When the simulation concluded, Kieran debriefed the medics, highlighting both successes and areas for improvement. The team responded with appreciation, clearly motivated by his guidance and example. The princess approached him, her eyes reflecting admiration. "You were remarkable," she said softly. "I could not have imagined anyone managing so well under pressure. You have earned respect not only from the palace staff, but from the observers and allies present. Humans, through your actions, have proven their value in ways beyond mere skill." His actions had shown that humans could face complexity with intelligence, courage, and integrity. As evening approached, the Queen summoned Kieran to the throne room. Princess Althea followed, curious and attentive. The room was filled with the palace court, advisors, and staff. Silence fell as the Queen spoke. "Doctor Hayes," she began, her tone steady and deliberate, "you have proven yourself through skill, calmness, and moral judgment. You have shown that humans are capable of extraordinary courage, intellect, and care. For this, you have earned my respect and trust." "I have only done my duty." Kieran froze for a moment, stunned by the announcement. The princess's eyes widened, reflecting surprise and curiosity. The Queen's expression, calm and deliberate, left no room for debate. The marriage order was final. Kieran bowed again, his mind racing. This was unexpected, far beyond any professional challenge he had faced. Yet he understood the wisdom behind the Queen's decision. It was a recognition of human qualities, a bridge between cultures, and a step towards stronger alliances. Princess Althea looked at him, a faint smile forming. "Dr. Hayes," she said softly, "it seems our fates are intertwined. I am eager to learn more about you, as you have learned about me and my world." The palace staff whispered quietly among themselves, realizing that humans had not only earned respect, but had become an integral part of the palace and its future. As night fell, Kieran returned to his quarters. His mind was busy, reflecting on the day's events. He had passed tests of skill, leadership, and ethics, and had now been entrusted with a future that held both personal and political significance. Humanity's place on Erendor had been solidified, and he knew that the coming days would require wisdom, patience, and integrity. Looking out at the palace grounds, Kieran felt a quiet pride, not for himself, but for the qualities humans had demonstrated. Courage, intelligence, compassion, and ethical judgment had earned trust and respect, even in a world far from home. He understood that this was only the beginning, that the responsibilities ahead would be challenging, yet he felt ready to face them with determination. And so the day ended with clarity and purpose. Kieran had proven that humans were capable of extraordinary action, not through force alone, but through calm, thoughtful, and ethical behavior. The future awaited, filled with challenges and opportunities, and humanity's place among the stars had been further secured. The morning sun rose gently over the palace, casting warm light over the polished walls and shimmering gardens. Kieran stood in his quarters, reviewing his notes and preparing for the day. Though the Queen's marriage order had already been declared, there were still matters of ceremony, tradition, and trust that needed careful handling. He had come to realize that his role on Erendor had expanded far beyond that of a simple medic. Humans had gained respect here, and now he bore the responsibility to honor that trust with integrity, patience, and care. Princess Althea was waiting in the gardens, dressed simply but elegantly. Her arm had fully healed, and her movements were confident. She greeted Kieran with a warm smile. "Good morning, Dr. Hayes. I hope you are ready for today. There are preparations for the ceremony, and the palace is alive with activity. We will approach everything with care and thoughtfulness." Yet he also noticed the subtle tension among some advisors, whispers that reflected curiosity, skepticism, and anticipation. Humans had earned respect, but their presence in the palace still challenged tradition. The Queen entered the gardens, her presence commanding attention. She did not speak immediately, but surveyed the scene with sharp, discerning eyes. When she finally addressed them, her voice carried authority. "Today, we recognize courage, skill, and integrity. Today, we also honor the union of two worlds through the qualities demonstrated by this human. I will continue to act with care and honor for both the princess and your people." Kieran assisted in small but important ways, offering guidance on health and safety for the events, ensuring that everyone involved could participate without risk. His attention to detail, calm composure, and ethical focus impressed even the most skeptical advisors. The humans had not only healed wounds and taught medical skills, but they had also demonstrated leadership, foresight, and moral integrity. The ceremony hall was vast, with high ceilings that reflected sunlight onto polished floors. Flowers from distant lands filled the air with delicate fragrances, and streams of water from artificial fountains created a soothing background melody. Representatives from neighboring planets who had observed Kieran's abilities during the previous days were seated respectfully, waiting to witness the event. The Queen took her place on the dais, her presence commanding yet serene. She gestured for Kieran and Princess Althea to approach. The princess's eyes were bright, reflecting curiosity, anticipation, and a growing admiration for the human beside her. Kieran remained calm, his posture respectful, his focus on honoring the moment and the responsibilities it represented. "Dr. Hayes," the Queen began, "you have proven through skill, courage, and ethical action that humans are capable of extraordinary qualities. Today, you will stand as an example of humanity's integrity, bravery, and wisdom. This union is not only a personal matter, but a recognition of the value humans bring to our world. You have observed his actions and character. Trust and respect have been earned. Today marks the beginning of a new chapter for both of you and for the alliance between our peoples." The words were carefully chosen, respectful of Erendorian traditions and inclusive of human customs. The audience, which included palace staff, medics, and foreign representatives, listened in quiet awe. They had watched humans adapt, learn, and lead under pressure, and now they witnessed the culmination of that respect and trust. Kieran felt the weight of the moment, but he remained composed. He focused not on grandeur or ceremony, but on the principles that had guided him throughout this journey: calmness, care, integrity, and the desire to make a positive difference. Princess Althea's presence beside him reinforced his determination. He would honor her trust, and through that, he would honor humanity. After the formalities, the Queen addressed the audience. "This day celebrates courage, skill, and moral integrity. It shows that even across worlds, Individuals can inspire respect and trust through actions, not words alone. Humans have demonstrated that their value lies not only in strength or technology, but in wisdom, compassion, and honor. Applause filled the hall, and Kieran noticed subtle nods of respect from previously skeptical advisors. The princess's eyes reflected warmth and curiosity, and Kieran felt a quiet reassurance. He had succeeded not just in healing wounds, but in bridging worlds through trust, character, and integrity. The remainder of the day was filled with celebrations and preparations for the future. Kieran and Princess Althea spoke with palace staff, diplomats, and medics. They shared experiences, exchanged ideas, and learned from each other. Kieran's calm demeanor, patience, and ethical guidance continued to impress those around him. Every action reinforced the respect humans had earned, demonstrating that courage, intelligence, and integrity could influence even the most cautious observers. As evening fell, the palace gardens were illuminated with soft lights, creating a serene and magical atmosphere. Kieran and Princess Althea walked together, discussing the events of the day. "You have changed the perception of humans here," Althea said softly. "People now see that they are capable of great courage, wisdom, and care. I am glad that my world has seen this, and I am glad that I have come to know you, Dr. Hayes." The humans had proven their value through skill, ethics, and courage. The union between Kieran and Althea was more than personal. It was a symbol of alliance, respect, and hope for a future where humans and Erendorians could learn from each other and grow together. The night ended quietly, with the palace resting under a sky filled with stars. Kieran prepared for his quarters, reflecting on the journey that had brought him here, from a human medic sent to assist in a crisis to a trusted figure in an alien court. He felt pride not for himself, but for the qualities humanity had demonstrated: courage, wisdom, integrity, and compassion. As he lay down to rest, he thought of the days ahead, the challenges, the responsibilities, and the opportunities. Humanity had earned a place of respect among the stars, and he had the honor of representing that. Princess Althea's trust, the Queen's acknowledgement, and the admiration of the palace staff were all reminders that courage, intelligence, and ethical action could transcend worlds. Kieran closed his eyes, knowing that the journey was far from over. Yet he felt prepared. The human spirit, guided by integrity and care, had already left its mark on Erendor, and he was determined to ensure that it would continue to shine brightly in the days, months, and years to come. Humanity's value had been recognized not through force or dominance, but through calm reasoning, ethical choices, and steadfast care for others. And in this palace on a distant world, that recognition would grow, bridging cultures, forging alliances, and inspiring respect for generations to come.